The big race. Lucas the sports car drove along the road next to the railroad track every morning, and he always saw Maisie the train. Beep, beep, he shouted each day. I'm faster than you. Choo, choo, Maisie replied. Oh, no, you're not. One morning, Maisie said, I've had enough of that sassy car thinking he's faster than me. So when she saw Lucas, she called out, I challenge you to a race. First one to the next station is the winner. You're on, chuckled Lucas, swishing his windscreen wipers. But I warn you, I'm sure to win. We'll see about that, said Maisie with a grin. Ready, get set, go. Maisie blew her whistle and shot into a tunnel. Lucas screeched around the bend and zoomed under a bridge. What an exciting start to the race. Maisie was speeding along the track, but then the signal changed and she had to stop to let another train pass. Lucas whizzed past on the road by the rail tracks. See you later, slow coach, he hooted. When the signal changed, Maisie chuffed ahead as fast as she could, puffing and panting. When she spotted Lucas stuck in a traffic jam on the road ahead. Aha, she said, I'm catching up after all. Lucas weaved through the town and Maisie rumbled along the track. They were neck and neck. Who would win? At last Maisie pulled into the station, just as Lucas skidded up outside. It was a draw. That was fun, said Maisie, laughing. But we still haven't found out who's fastest. Just then they heard a loud roar overhead. I'm faster than both of you, shouted Olivia the aeroplane from high in the clouds. Want a race? The Frog Prince. Long ago, a princess lived with her father in a palace surrounded by woods. When it was hot outside, the princess would walk into the shade of the forest and sit by a pond. There she would play with her favourite toy, a golden ball. One day the ball slipped from her hand and fell to the bottom of the pond. My beautiful golden ball, she sobbed. An ugly speckled frog popped his head out of the water. Why are you crying? He croaked. I've dropped my precious golden ball into the water, she cried. What will you give me if I get it for you? Asked the frog. You may have my jewels, sobbed the unhappy princess. I don't need those, said the frog. If you promise to care for me and be my friend, let me share food from your plate and sleep on your pillow, then I will bring back your golden ball. I promise, said the princess. But she thought to herself, he's only a silly old frog. I won't do any of those things. When the frog returned with the ball, she snatched it from him and ran back to the palace. That evening the princess was having dinner with her father when there was a knock on the door. When the princess opened the door, she was horrified to find the frog sitting there. She slammed the door and hurried back to the table. Who was that? Asked the king. Oh, just a frog, replied the princess. What does a frog want with you? Asked the puzzled king. The princess told her father about the promise she had made. Princesses always keep their promises, insisted the king. Let the frog in and make him welcome. As soon as the frog hopped through the door, he asked to be lifted up onto the princess's plate. When the frog saw the look of disgust on the princess's face, he sang, Princess, princess, fair and sweet, you made a special vow to be my friend and share your food, so don't forget it now. The king was annoyed to see his daughter acting so rudely. This frog helped you, he said, and now you must keep your promise to him. For the rest of the day, the frog followed the princess everywhere she went. She hoped that he would go back to his pond when it was time for bed. But when darkness fell, the frog yawned and said, I'm tired. Take me to your room and let me sleep on your pillow. The princess was horrified. No, I won't, she said rudely. Go back to your pond and leave me alone. The patient frog sang, Princess, princess, fair and sweet, you made a special vow to be my friend and share your food, so don't forget it now. Reluctantly, the princess took the frog to her room. She couldn't bear the thought of sleeping next to him, so she put him on the floor. Then she climbed into her bed and went to sleep. After a while, the frog jumped up onto the bed. It's drafty on the floor. Let me sleep on your pillow, he said. The sleepy princess felt more annoyed than ever. She picked up the frog and hurled him across the room. But when she saw him lying dazed and helpless on the floor, she was suddenly filled with pity. Oh, you poor darling, she cried, and she picked him up and kissed him. Suddenly, the frog transformed into a handsome young prince. Sweet princess, he cried, I was bewitched, and your tender kiss has broken the curse. The prince and princess soon fell in love and were married. They often walked in the shady forest together and sat by the pond, tossing the golden ball back and forth and smiling at how they first met. There was an old man from Peru. There was an old man from Peru who dreamed he was eating his shoe. He woke in a fright in the middle of the night and found it was perfectly true. How many miles to Babylon? How many miles to Babylon? 60 miles and 10. Can I get there by candlelight? Yes, and back again. If your heels are nimble and light, you may get there by candlelight. There was a little girl. There was a little girl, and she had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. When she was good, she was very, very good. But when she was bad, she was horrid. As I was going to St. Ives. As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Each wife had 7 sacks. Each sack had 7 cats. Each cat had 7 kits. Kits, cats, sacks, and wives. How many were going to St. Ives? Jack be nimble. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack jump over the candlestick. Silly Billy. Bats do a lot of things upside down. They eat upside down. They sleep upside down. But Billy Bat spent
We have that one too.
We have a different book about Silly Billy the goat. They sleep upside down, but Billy Bat spent so much time upside down that he thought he was up was down. One night, Billy saw the reflection of the moon in the lake as he hung from his perch. I want to fly to the moon, he said. Don't be silly, Billy, said his sister, Grace. The moon is too far away. No, it's not, said Billy, pointing to the reflection. It's really close, look. Grace shook her head. You don't understand, she said. But Billy wasn't listening. Here I go, he cried. Whee! He spread his wings and zoomed toward the reflection of the moon in the water. Splash! Billy dived into the lake. A few seconds later he crawled out spluttering and found his sister waiting for him. Do you understand now, Billy? Grace asked. Yes, said Billy, shivering. The moon is much, much wetter than it looks. What a silly Billy. Fluff's muddle. Fluff was all in a muddle. During the daytime, when owls should be asleep, Fluff was wide awake. There was just so much happening on the farm. She giggled at the geese waddling around the pond and chuckled as the chickens scratched and pecked the ground. She laughed so much that she kept waking her family up. You're too noisy, said her sister Blink. You're keeping us awake, said her brother Beak. That night, Fluff was feeling tired, just when owls should be wide awake. I know what we can do to fix Fluff's muddle, said Blink. Fluff could hardly believe her eyes as Blink and Beak waddled around the pond like geese and scratched and pecked and ground like chickens. She laughed so much that it kept her awake all night. By the time morning came, Fluff was feeling very tired indeed. The geese waddled and the chickens scratched and pecked as usual, but Fluff was fast asleep.